The word that I keep coming back to is uplifting. I have this conviction based on my lived experience that uplifting people or the planet doesn't have to be draining. It can actually feel uplifting to the person who's making that impact.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Uplifting Conversations, Quick Reflex, but this one is not so quick. This week, we're going to kind of summarize all of the podcast episodes that we've had in season 1, which has been about 7 or 8 of them.
About 7, 8. Yeah,
8,
7.
7 of them. We've
all
had some all fire. We've had some amazing conversations. Are we including you in that one?
7 with me.
Okay, yeah. So 7 people. Oh, and I didn't introduce myself. I'm Tamari, Director of Communication and Engagement at Uplifting Capital, here with my boy Toussaint Bailey, founder, CEO.
They know us by now.
They know us. I'm like, hopefully you know us by now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been like a really good journey talking to all of the guests. Watching you talk to all of the guests, obviously, I did have some interaction with them before we recorded. But the common thread that I noticed with everyone is this idea of like following your purpose, following your inner calling. Every story that that was touched on was very personal, from Sam and Ikigai and searching for a greater purpose. Kahlil, using his God-given talents to kind of form his own path. And now he's, in gaming and moving into impact. Bilal and Devon, really using their skills. They're heavy hitters. They've had this great background, for big companies, but they both kind of wanted more, and they wanted to follow something that was really true to them. Danny, using, and I guess it is his purpose, right? What he's doing to help people that aren't being helped in terms of, felons that can't get financing. So that is a purpose of his, but it's really driven out of like a pain point. So I feel like that was all the common thread, like some pain point that kind of led them to purpose, which I feel like we all have something like that, which is amazing.
Yeah. No, that same here. So mine is something similar. It's almost like I think about the hero's journey and how there's this arc where you're okay, and then you kind of go down and you come back up. And to me, it's I think a lot of what we go through in terms of like feeling a sense of hopelessness or feeling like we can't change things is like we're trying to ignore those negative emotional affects where we feel bothered by something. And so for me, there was always a nugget in these conversations of people finding power in their place where they were bothered, right? Like, so it could have been from a place of anger, a place of emptiness, a place of sadness, right? And so like if as I walk through the conversation, I think about my own journey, kind of making my life about impact and impact investing. And I think of that coming out of George Floyd and just my desire to advance that conversation in circles that I was in, and just feeling like compelled to do that and feeling weighed down. Like, so some of that was mourning, some of that was just frustration. And so like that's there for me. I know Robert talked about losing a friend and just really kind of going toward wanting to do something and moving policy to something more healthy and building up communities. And that ended up in his time at Reform Alliance. Sam talked about looking into that room, and I think he wrote something like anything but this is what he was interested in, right? Because he just was at this place where his life was anti-Ikigai, and so he like went on this journey that moved him. Same thing with Danny being shut out, like financially excluded, and then leading to him wanting to do something with financial inclusion. Devon talked about spending all that time at these like big influential companies, and not being able to influence the hiring of anybody who looked like him. So really not moving the needle on some of the stuff that he himself cared about. Jordan looking at housing and kind of working in a way that either harmed the interest of people who needed to be housed, or really just didn't advance like what he was hoping to advance. And so creating this innovative solution around workforce housing, and then all of the work that he does around that now being informed by just wanting to see something better. And the same thing with Kahlil, right? He talked about imposter syndrome and not feeling like he had a place where he belonged at Yale for a period of time. And now he's moved his life into creating pathways for people who might feel excluded from traditional education, and finding their way through gaming and gaming careers. And so there's been this just nugget of people feeling like this bothered state. You know, I talk about the quietly bothered, right? Like finding power in that place of being bothered, and then going to these journeys. I saw come up again and again with these individuals. And so, but we need some ladies on the podcast. I'm looking
Yeah,
at,
I mean, we have
down
them
this
coming.
list.
We have them coming. Don't worry, we
I
have
know.
the ladies coming.
I feel like we've been teasing the choir episode.
Yeah, I know. That's like
ever.
beginning of the year.
Yeah, we
That
got
one's
we
gonna be a great
kick
one.
off the season with that one.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything you said is, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, for me, I just feel like your greatest pain is your greatest gift. Like that.
Mhm.
Sorry to bring astrology into this, but I'm an astrologer.
Bring it.
I
No.
didn't know, I'm a certified astrologer, and there's a Chiron is an asteroid, and Chiron in people's charts shows where you're wounded, but it shows where you can heal once you kind of work through that wound. And so that's what I look at people's purpose. When I do purpose, it's always driven usually through some sort of, loss or sadness or hurt or pain, that you turn it around, and you help heal people with it. So I feel like every single guest on the podcast has done that, which is amazing.
Yeah. Brene Brown talks about this phenomenon of people not leaning into that. She calls it numbing, right? Like she talks about all these different things we do to put armor around feeling, and all these things we do to avoid vulnerability. But then one of the points she makes is you can't numb one thing and then like the bad stuff, and not numb the good stuff. Like you can't avoid feeling pain and then also experience deep joy. And so I feel like what you like the point that you just made, like just rings so true to me. And like, in order to really feel a deep passion for solving something or doing something, the kind that drives you to do something crazy, like try to create something that's never existed, or go at a problem like criminal justice or housing, like you need a deep and burning passion. But that doesn't come without having like some kind of fuel that may be not necessarily all this kind of airy, fluffy puppy dogs and rainbows and all of that stuff. It's like it comes from a place of grit and like, substance. And I feel like all these people spoke from that place about the beginnings of their journeys.
Definitely. Yeah, we talked a lot about that when I was in my impact class at Anderson. I forgot the term of it, but there was a business case we read from Stanford about entrepreneurs that are trying to solve these huge problems, but they have no connection to the issue. Heropreneur, that's what it's called, a heropreneur. Like you come in and you want to save the day. And I'm not saying that we don't need those, we need advocates, but the most impact you can make is when you really live in it and you're part of it, and or someone close is connected to it, and you really sit in how can you solve it. So yeah, I think being a heropreneur is not the goal. It's really coming in and understanding, and I feel like the most impact can be made when you're close to an issue.
Yeah, no, like I think Robert talks about that. Danny talks about that. Both of them involved in kind of criminal justice and opportunities for the justice impacted. Like the people closest to these problems are the ones that hold the best solutions to these problems. And so one of the things that even we're trying to do, right, when we're solving for these impact issues at Uplifting Capital is get out of the way. Like empower the people who are you know, whether that's the entrepreneurs or whether that's even some of the fund managers who we interface with, who spend time living in these individual issues. It's like you may bring capital, you may bring expertise, you may bring relationships, but you don't necessarily have the best insight about some of the things that need to be unlocked, if you're not feeling the weight of that problem on a regular basis. And so just making sure that we continue to empower and give voice to the people who are experiencing the issues that we're trying to solve is absolutely, I feel like it's the only way to go, especially in impact, but just generally, like just the way that good products are made is like feedback, iterate, right? And so like creating that feedback loop for impactful solutions, just it makes sense. That's how problems are effectively solved, right?
Exactly. Totally.
Yeah. So now I'm pleased with how this first season has gone. I think we've had an incredible slate of people, but I am super, super, super excited for what's to come next year. And I know we talked today about even doing, you know, something a little bit different to spice up next year and amplify. And so I won't say anything about that yet, but we have some good, incredible content coming for people. Some education will continue to come. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, make sure you get signed up for our newsletter. We do white papers in there. We do tips for advisors. We do stuff to help clients, and that will only continue to get better as we get feedback and as we just, you know, get practice. And so excited to stay connected with folks. You'll be hearing from both of us quite a bit in the new year, right?
And follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram at Uplifting Capital, Twitter, Bailey and Uplifting Capital.
But mostly LinkedIn. You know, I live on
LinkedIn is where we
is where you can find me.
Where you can find everything, but we do break down some of our content on those other platforms if you're active on there.
I'm making effort elsewhere.
Yeah. But LinkedIn's, that's where it's at for sure.
Yep. Well, cool. I'm grateful. Like I'm just feeling so much gratitude for, you know, anybody who's ever received an email from me has probably seen my with gratitude signature. I feel like I have so much gratitude for the people who participated in the podcast, the fact that people are listening. Liv Gagnon sent her Spotify. What's the list called?
It's not top 10.
Anyway,
that's I don't know.
We were number 4. We're number 4. I told her after her episode comes out, we're shooting everybody's number 1.
Number 1. I love it.
So I'm so grateful for people listening and following and letting me know online and in real life. Every once in a while, I have somebody come up like, heard the podcast. I'm like, what?
Okay.
Cool.
Well, we'll see you guys in 2023.
See you guys.
Big year.
Peace.